have a fucking hole in your foot. But he's like, oh, I'm good. I'm just walk it off, man. I gotta go to the doc and get some ibuprofen, drink water. I don't know who. So, do you know what this is?
Yeah.
Letter opener?
Yep.
Is this an original OSS
That's the
knife?
original.
Like original?
That's the original.
This is the original, or this is a replica?
That's an original. So that's an original.
One of one?
That's like thousands.
But that was like...
There's only hundreds.
Well, survival knife.
Piece of shit because of battles.
Yeah, exactly. The V42, right?
So this one has... This is an original.
Yeah.
Dude, these are so rare. Devil's Brigade, son.
So
you know who...
Obviously the only person at the table who actually doesn't know what that is.
Yeah, SEALs don't use knives.
They don't?
No.
But they have their own. They had I've seen them come out of the water.
Yeah.
Or come out of the water with like the shark knife or whatever. And they're like,
that could have been Pirates of the Caribbean, but
either way, Johnny Depp or Navy SEAL.
Same.
I often get them confused.
Same. He played in Navy SEAls actually.
Right.
He was a B-roll.
He
actor.
was, yeah. Charlie Sheen
and Charlie Sheen. I would love to know the total amount of money they spent on cocaine in their life.
More than we've all made combined.
What was it? It was the guy from Aerosmith estimated that in the 70s he spent between $6 to $7 million on blow.
Johnny?
Oh
no! I've leaped now into the music world.
Are you kidding me?
Dead serious. Steven Tyler, $6 to $7 million of cocaine. Maybe it was in his lifetime. I don't know if
he looks healthy too.
He should have been looking for a better deal. Like he should have tried to get it up front. like a shipping container full of shit.
The article went deep. It was like a specific supplier with a stamp on the bag.
Nice.
And he actually said, I regret doing so much cocaine because I could have been having sex with so many more women.
Interesting
quote.
He's a rock star.
I respect that.
Legit.
I respect that. I regret doing so much cocaine because I could have been having way more sex. Yeah.
Charlie Sheen, though, and Johnny Depp. That's a lot of blow.
Yeah, that's a lot of blow.
Speaking of, that was a great Johnny Depp movie, by the way.
The trial? Yeah.
Blow was great.
Yeah.
The movie trial, that was interesting in and of itself.
I didn't see any of it. I watched the entire trial via meme. I don't know about you guys. I only knew what was going on based on the memes. That was it. Just like, okay, she shit the bed. Got it. Okay.
That's all I cared about. Like, she did that.
Like
there was no pictures though.
Oh man.
Because what was her defense? It was their dog, which I believe was a very, very small dog. So I had a mini dots and I lost it in the divorce. But I'm familiar with the size of the shits that it takes, and it looks like a caterpillar.
Right.
That and a heater from a human being on your side of the bed, very hard to confuse.
Rare.
All we needed was one picture.
All we needed.
So what was the case even about? She was accusing him of defamation, or he was. They were
accusing each other.
Oh, got it.
What it was?
Okay, got it. It was so dramatic.
It's so dramatic, and
for
I thought
what?
It was like I thought it was so ridiculous.
Defamation cases are so hard to try too. I mean, it's so crazy.
My favorite that I saw out of the entire trial was there's somebody that was putting a petition together to get her name legally changed to Amanda Turd. And there's like 10,000 signatures on it. And I was like, this is amazing. This is what the internet is for. The internet is for these types of things.
Yes.
Like it is meant for amusement. It's not meant for, anger.
Yeah.
Here's a question I've heard.
Small world. So you know who sent this to me?
Absolutely no idea.
He's a knife guy. And
Arabito.
No. He and I have an ongoing dialogue, text back and forth about like this knife or this knife or this knife or this knife.
You and Arabito do, or are you and the person that gave
this
you?
and the person. But you know this person. You know him from Iraq, and you also know him because he's a Delta Force guy that likes to play Navy SEAL.
Oh, Tyler.
So Tyler Gray gave me this. He sent it to me. He's like, yo, dude, I found this for you. Yeah.
Like Jack
where is
Carr.
Tyler?
Probably in Hollywood.
But he's not doing the Navy SEAL thing anymore.
He is.
Somebody told me. No, he's not.
Really?
The dog guy.
I thought he was
told me that he's
tech
not.
advisor.
The dog guy at SIG when we went to. Oh, you guys were at SIG, but I was with Jack Carr And the dog guy, we were having dinner. And I was like, where's Tyler? And he's like, he's doing something else.
Huh.
And I was like, oh.
I feel like it would exhaust you at some point.
Dude, burned out.
Yeah, for years.
Yeah. And it shifted to Paramount now.
Oh, really?
The whole show did, yeah.
I've never seen an episode.
I haven't either.
Why would I possibly? Would you watch a show called Green Beret? I think the answer is no.
Yeah. I think I would.
There was one.
Tune in every Thursday because you know that it would be
We're
good.
We're going to sign up on
especially
Netflix.
Especially if it's done on like NBC.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. It's going to be super
the
accurate.
Green Berets. Oh, you know what? I refuse to watch that. I'm woke a little bit, but the main troops, he's like the troop chief.
Yep.
The main character, the actor.
Yeah.
He wore a shirt when all this stuff was coming out and said something. It said something like let kids be like something with trans or something like that. And it was like, let kids identify who they want to be.
Right.
And he had it sitting back. He was like sitting back and wearing that shirt and took like an awkward selfie. Dude, he got I'd never comment on people's shit. I don't have the energy. But he got destroyed.
Yeah.
So much so,
based off what
he abandoned his account. He deleted every post.
Are you kidding me?
Completely abandoned.
That's awesome.
He's got millions of followers. Right. Completely abandoned it, deleted all of his stuff. But I'm like, dude, why are you You're playing a Navy SEAL, patriot, warrior in a TV show.
Let's use those terms loosely.
Yeah, I never connect them. I don't connect. There's no correlation between SEAL and warrior.
Yeah.
But I'm like, you're playing that role.
Right.
And I'm like, what are you doing, man? Why would you ruin... even if you believe that at your core, keep your mouth shut about that shit.
Here's what I can say.
Nobody wants to hear that shit.
Here's what I can say about that. I had a conversation with somebody less than a week ago, and I'll be super broad about it so they don't get in trouble, but they're still active duty. And they expressed concerns about the current naval special warfare culture. It is legitimate that conversations like that.
Oh, yeah.
And that I don't actually know what the term wokeism
I don't either. I just made that shit up.
Precisely define them, but broadly it is actually, he wanted to give a brief on what it means to be a man in a core values segment early on in training. He was told that he cannot give a brief because what if there is a female in the pipeline? And he looked at the person that was saying that to him and said, but there's not. There's clearly not. Yeah. The class I'm getting ready to brief, you can go and speak to each of them. And and for people who don't know this, until about a decade ago, I don't know how it was in the ODA world, but until about a decade ago, the SEAL pipeline was closed off to women. It was just changing as I got out.
Yeah, same.
And I think that it was largely forced on all of the special operations communities because it was what the rule used to be. It was a
no women in combat arms.
Yeah,
direct
period.
In it, but it was
direct combat.
Correct. Okay. Yeah. So we weren't the only community, but it changed. I think there have been some women who have tried the pre-screening pipeline to date.
Right.
Nobody has.
Well, I saw that documentary. Demi Moore did that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And she made it through easy.
Yeah, she made it through. And then they went on an op, like at the end of Buds,
out of the end of Buds and went on a real world mish. And then somebody read her a poem and gave her a Navy Cross.
Right.
So
that was a National Geographic
documentary.
It's a standard
transition from training to being a recipient of a very prestigious award.
Right.
Yeah.
But this guy's, he's like, what do you mean? There's obviously no woman. Well, there might be. Okay, but I could change the brief if that was the case. I'm capable of reading the room. He, like that was his line in the sand. He held that line in the sand, and they attempted to legitimately punish him because he wanted to give a brief on how to be a man to a group of candidates early on in the pipeline. Like the most important time you could probably give it to him. He was told no. So I have concerns about the infiltration of that ideology into the community. He voiced concerns for the future, not only for that, but also the current combat experience in the SEAL teams. And I suspect this is in every branch is starting to time out.
It is.
Yeah.
Which is, and I was thinking about that. I was like, wow, you're about 5 years away from being a really dangerous place where it's all based upon things you have heard of, but have never directly done, which is the training pipeline that I was going through pre 9/11. We had been decades of peace, of jungle warfare. And then I get over to Afghanistan and Iraq. I'm like, oh, why are swim fins on the list? Why did you ask me to bring a dive mask to Baghdad? These don't. Why are we running into every room with our hair on fire? That shit doesn't work. So it's that T-shirt I think is a little bit endemic of the broader. Some people might not think it's a problem. Some people might think it's a solution. I don't know either way. I think it's concerning, and I'm also glad that I'm not living in that world.
Well, what do you think happens if you could predict the future? Because we're on a trend. It seems like we're seemingly fucking everything up. So if you look at, can I say fucking on your podcast?
It's the internet, dude.
Say whatever
Whose
you want.
podcast is this?
Yeah.
This is ours. Like, we're going to distribute it across everybody. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Who cares?
The tripod, 3 equal legs.
I like that. What do you think happens? Because there's obviously a shift. There's mental health concern.
Yeah.
Like people, active shooting, that's another topic we're talking about. But when people immediately divert to the tool, I go, dude, we're in a mental health crisis. There's the highest rates of suicide amongst teenage girls.
Right.
The reflection of comparing themselves to everything in the algorithm.
Right.
So
Bring it on in, girl.
what does the next 5 years look like from that?
I honestly, I don't know. Like, I get like...
Thanks, Jamie.
Thanks, Jamie. I get like... Well, I'll rewind a little bit. I was thinking about this the other day because I was thinking about how France had essentially bailed us out during the Revolutionary War. So if it weren't for France funding their additional layers of military capacity, ships, like the Revolutionary War would have gone a completely different direction. A lot of people could speculate, but truly without their military power and funding, we would have been fucked. I don't know if anybody else would have backfilled it. I'm not like speculating. I'm just saying like we would have been fucked. Now, take that from 1776, fast forward to 1941, where we were bailing them out because they couldn't defend themselves.
Yeah.
So we didn't exist as a country. And then we fast forward from 1776 to 1941. That's a relatively fast decline. But what I was thinking about, and it was in reference to somebody was talking about the country of France and then how countries decline. And what they focus on is they get so comfortable in their security and they get complacent. And then they focus on arbitrary things. So France, for instance, in this circumstance, like to focus on a lot of philosophy, fashion. They went to like something like a 1-day work week, right? I'm just exaggerating, right? And then they take like 3 months off in the summer. Like they lost their capacity to work, and ultimately they focused on the wrong things, and then they couldn't defend themselves 150 years later. We're on that trajectory. We're focused on the wrong things. Like, no matter what world you live in, I don't care who you are, an 8-year-old doesn't have the psychological capacity to define their gender. Like, I will debate anyone about that. I have an 8-year-old. My 8-year-old doesn't know the difference between macros and micros. She can't determine what is a healthy food 365 days out of the year, let alone whether or not she's going to be a man or a woman for the rest of her life. That is fucking completely insane. And statistically, it's less than 5% of the entire United States that believe in this bullshit. So why are we placating to a group of fucking crazy people that think that this is acceptable for 8-year-olds, or that schools need to be injected into that narrative as well? Like, hey, dude, you're there to teach my kids how to spell elephant, not how to determine their fucking sexual preference. Like, get the fuck out of it. But I think as a society, we've become so rewinding. I think we've become so complacent because people are secure. They live in this false sense of security, and they're always like, Big Brother's going to protect me, and evil men like Andy, Evan, and Mike will always go out and do our bidding. And then we can always fucking flog them later for all the, bullshit that they did overseas. But we've entitled, I said, the warrior class, we've entitled the American public, which is our job, to live in this false sense of security, which ultimately breeds complacency. It's just a slippery slope to what we focus on.
The other meme, the hard times, hard men, which create easy times, which create, and I'm totally fucking that up, but it goes back into a circle.
Yeah.
And recently you see a lot of people circling the easy time creates weak people, followed by the catastrophe that comes from that, which creates hard times, which creates
Mean times.
Well, and
It's hard.
we come from similar
people. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it creates hard men.
Yeah. Well, we're all similar backgrounds. Like I don't believe in this whole thing of like, you can't be competitive. Like, you can't teach your kids to be competitive. You can't teach your kids to compete. Like, we're all parents. We're all here sitting at the same table. I'm like, I want my girls to be competitive.
Yeah.
Like, I want my kids to
lose.
Yeah,
Not
exactly.
like in the grand scheme, but like micro losses so they avoid macro life failure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I had this is the first talk, like man to man with my son the other day. My son's 3. She has a twin daughter.
As a parent, I'm just going to say it might be a little early for those.
No, it was the appropriate time.
If your talk was about like Play-Doh or pulling on other people's penises, perhaps it was time for that. But like as a political or philosophical comment, like it may not be.
The birthplace of philosophy.
we were in the kitchen and I was getting ready to take him to the daycare. And my son sits on the ground. I'm like, hey, go put on your shoes. And these kids are, I think they're hyper intelligent. Every parent does, right? The kids are the smartest. But they're super sociable. They understand exactly what I'm telling them to do. I'm like, hey, go put on your shoes. And so my son sits down, and this has happened before, but he had his sister's Cinderella slipper, the jelly slipper.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I threw away the one that I found in the car because I thought, I lost the other one. So I'm like, I tossed that one. And then he found that one and he goes to put it on his foot. And I said, no. That's not your shoe. And I pulled it off and he started crying. And I was like, son, this isn't your shoe. I said, do you want this shoe or your boots? And he goes, I want that shoe. I was like, okay, do you want girl shoes or do you want boy shoes? And he goes, I want girl shoes. And I was like, no. And so, dude, this is in haste.
Yeah,
so then all of a sudden I go, all right, let me sit down in front of him and like navigate this. So I'm like, son, okay, you like Luca, right? And Luca's the Disney movie with the Italian, like Navy SEALs, the kids come out of the water.
Why the fuck does everything come back to Navy SEALs?
I think they're SEALs. They're actually Navy.
Always comes back.
They're all Navy.
It's
they're
always
Italian Navy.
That movie is 100% not about anything SEAL.
Maybe. That's the underlying theme.
I appreciate it. But it's like, what are you guys talking about?
Senior Petty Chief Luca.
Yeah.
So Luca,
Chief Petty Officer, not Petty Chief.
Yeah, whatever. Petty Chief.
Senior Petty Chief Officer.
I said, and they love Luca, but they also love Moana. I said, hey, do you like Luca or do you like Moana? And I said, do you like Luca? Like, oh yeah, like Luca. Or do you like Moana? Like, yay, Moana. And he goes, I like Luca. And I was like, yeah, you like Luca. And he's like, yeah. I was like, let me go get your boots. He goes, okay. And then he throws on his boots and he stands up and he's like, Luca. And he's all proud.
Right.
I'm like, was that life changing for him? No. But what I realized, it's like disciplining my kids. It's like disciplining a squad of infantry. When you're in a gunfight and they don't have any guidance, they flop, they flail, they shoot at hillsides. What are you shooting at? I'm shooting because everybody else is shooting. When you get to the root of it, you're like, no. You don't shoot just to shoot. You shoot when you have a target. Or if you're suppressing the enemy, I could buy off on that. When you have kids, you have to give them structure. Because when you give them structure, their mind doesn't wander and they don't fill the gaps with assumptions.
Right.
Like it's the same thing I see on a flat range, right? Where a person who thinks they know what they're doing but has no clue, when they don't understand what to do, they do something wrong. Right? They move the gun around. They get all deficient. They start moving their trigger finger. You're like, what are you doing right now?
You just described me in a gunfight.
Yes.
Perfectly.
I'm like, stop.
Shoot at anything.
About the guy shooting
Move everything around.
He's like, you never shoot at a hillside. I'm sitting there like,
shoot at hillsides all the time.
Why not?
Those
you guys are getting it on. I want to get it on.
Loud noises.
Oh, shit. So I've noticed when my kids are given an inch, they take the mile, right?
That's all
but
kids.
But they flail. Right. But when you give them discipline, my kids thrive. They love to be like, all right, what's next? Son, do this, do that. And I think a lot of parents are scared to allow their kids to live in structure because they think that's somehow taking away their freedoms.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't have to allow your kid to choose. How about you consolidate their choices and you give them smart choices. You say, hey, you could choose left or right, whatever you want, A or B. But giving them the freedom is saying, you could be whatever you want to be. You could be a unicorn. You could be a girl as a boy. That doesn't work in my household. And I think as a society, we buy into the idea that utopia is this idea of being so free, so loose, do whatever the fuck you want. And that doesn't work. And like it's back to the special operations guys.
Luca.
Back to Luca, Chief Petty Officer Luca. When you take special operations guys and you ask them if they did low vis operations, they would tell you, yeah, I do low vis ops, right? If you tell them, are you an unconventional warrior? Yeah, I'm unconventional. The reality is, when you get down the root of it, they are just masters of convention, right? They've taken all the mastering of all the basics and they've mastered convention, which isn't unconventional. We think irregular and unconventional is like, people think that it's just like being loose, being crazy, being a hippie. It's not. It's more disciplined. So we need to get more discipline, quoting Jocko.
Discipline equals freedom.
It equals freedom. Instead of this idea of like, just do whatever
some
the fuck
discipline
you
equals some freedom.
Yeah.
So you can just not be in fucking fifth gear at 100 miles an hour all the time.
Yeah, but you don't have to.
Waking up at 4:30 is exhausting.
I would never do that.
I feel Jocko goes to bed at 5 p.m.
He's got to.
No, I've talked to him later in the evening, like at 8 o'clock his time. I'm like, yo, dude.
Aren't you trying to get your solid?
Yeah.
He's just sitting there just, huh? What? What do you think your philosophy will be as your kids get older? Because I think if you rate, and again, I'm not a perfect parent, but my kids are older than both of your guys. So
yeah, you have a different dexterity.
My daughter just turned 14. I'm in birthday season. So she turned 14. My middle son turned 17 in August. And then my oldest turns 19 in October.
Crazy, man.
Mind
You said he got a
bending.
beard, right?
Yeah,
Seriously?
I call him Osama bin Riley. He looks like a full jihadist. Just scruffy and just hair.
That's awesome.
Just yelling at people at first person. Just, you fucking cuck. I'll walk by his room and I'm like, God damn it, you don't know how to fight. God, if you run into any of these people on the street.
You're going to get fucked up.
Oh, God. Yeah, so Osama bin Riley turned to 19. And I think earlier on, you can be very dogmatic. And I present this as a question, not necessarily a way forward, but I think you have to give them more flexibility and choices as they get older.
Yes, I agree.
Because we all know people who, I'm going to use religion as an example of something that is a rigid ideology. And the people that I know at a young age who were the most restricted lost their fucking minds as soon as they got out of that.
Yep.
And I look at the way my parents raised me. It's interesting having older kids now because I look at my oldest, my two boys who.
Did you have older siblings?
I had an older sister.
Yeah.
We started getting along Tuesday. No, we're doing better, but it actually was really shitty when we were younger for reasons that I don't know necessarily we've been able to identify yet, but it's just been back and forth. My two oldest boys think that they're James Bond, and they're really not sneaky. And their field craft is
weak.
C- at best on their best day.
Right.
Most of the time when they're pulling some shit, I know what's going on. And I look and I have these conversations with my dad. I'll be like, hey, did you know that when I was in high school, I was doing this, that, or that? And they're like, yeah, your mom and I used to laugh about that. I'm like, why didn't you say anything or stop me? They're like, you had to make your own mistakes. You had to make your own choices. You had to have your own consequences. So I think
that's squared away.
You have to find
I buy into that.
Yeah.
But they also weren't going to be like,
kill yourself.
Yeah, go make a Molotov cocktail in my neighbor's yard.
Yeah.
Right.
Lighting the grass on fire by the house is fine, but let's not throw it over the wooden fence.
Right.
The ability to make decisions inside of boundaries that your parents are there for, right? The soft bumpers that are there as the bowling ball is bouncing around. I think if you don't do that the world at some point will put them into the wood chipper and spit them out into pieces.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know the answer though, when you need to shift from the shoes, first off, question with that. Have you ever tried on women's footwear?
They're comfortable.
Totally. Have you ever worn have you guys ever worn like a nice wedge, like a nice tan wedge, open toe?
Gives you a few inches and it makes you comfortable.
That's nice.
Let me tell
your
you,
calves.
Yeah.
Get a little bit more bounce.
Every time my wife puts on heels, all she does is complain about them. So
that's what wedges are way better.
She's like, these are the worst. Why do people wear these?
No.
Like, this is the fucking worst shoe ever.
An open toe wedge with like a nice sundress commando style, of course, to get the breeze.
Yeah.
You look good.
You're going to look good.
There's a couple of sales who look really good in that. I've seen they work for the Pentagon. There's a few of them.
I do wedge Fridays. It's not a
wedge Fridays. It's with full auto Fridays. It's also wedge.
Yeah,
wedge
under the
Fridays.
table.
Yeah, under the you just
so
like
comfy. Yeah, I don't know when you...
There's a really good book out there. Actually, I'll recommend it. It's called Unfragile. And it's about...
I haven't read it, but I've heard of it.
It's quite literally about what we're talking about here. It's developing strength through creating a diverse set of complex problems that your kids constantly have to solve. And so you're trying to toughen them up, basically.
Yeah.
And where they have to solve their own problems, they take accountability for their actions.
It gives you the problems in the book?
No, it's just like talking about a philosophy, right? So it's,
I like that.
It's really interesting. I tend to agree with this. It wasn't something that I read and I'm like, oh my gosh, this life changing. It's like, no, that's what I do.
Yeah.
Right. Because I think we've also, things will get different as the girls start to get a little bit older. I understand that. But man, you got to toughen them up.
Yeah.
Like, you got to let them make some mistakes.
In jiu-jitsu, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They do the gym I train at, what would it be? They're not affiliates. The ecosystem it's called Straight Blast Gym, and they do an inner gym competition called the Gorilla Cup because the mascot is a large.
Oh yeah.
A large ape.
Yeah.
My coach Travis has for the last few years gotten up in the opening speech because it's largely kids.
Right.
It's hilarious to watch 6 and 7-year-olds holding onto each other's collars and just death spirals. Just
Yeah.
It's like awesome. They're free falling.
And then into the teens, it's just like uncontrolled. I could sit there and watch it all day long with popcorn. But he opens with, let your kids lose and then don't tell them that that's okay. Don't try to and don't be like, oh, you're a piece of shit because you lost. It's like, you're not going to get a participation trophy and that's okay. You lost and you shouldn't want to lose, but that should also be the motivation for you. Like, don't sit there and tell you, oh, you lost. It's okay to sit there and cry. Like, no, this is what happens in your life. How are you going to deal with it?
Yeah.
And I think it's the perfect opening is, if you don't expose, that's another thing I don't understand about. I agree with you that I think in the world that we live in, or probably largely the first world, that sense of security and comfort, everything should be equal. Like, we don't want to elevate one group of people against another or have a first, second, and third. Somehow ranking where people finish became a bad thing. I don't understand that. I can understand in an insular world how that makes sense. But if you do anything that touches anything outside of that country or community that you live in, you're going to get fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think China cares too much about participation trophies or any other country that may be even an adversary or just business competition to the United States. They're probably sitting back going, oh my God, I hope that this culture just permeates even farther, even deeper. Because it fails the crucible of the real world.
Yeah. Well, when you look at the decline of civilizations, whether it's like what I just referenced or, the Roman Empire, whatever empire we're looking at, like, there's a lot of different reasons, but typically you can see trends within a society. So the Roman Empire is a really good example. They started taking too much territory. They were logistically too spread out. They took for granted their own safety, and then they focused on a lot of like philosophical and abstract issues that weren't necessarily built around hardening your culture and then building security. And I think like a lot of people I know a lot of people in America take their country's security, they take it for granted. They just think like, we're never going to be at war, so it doesn't really matter. And if the war happens, it's going to be overseas and it's not going to affect us. Like, but let us just take into account a couple thousand years. Like, we won't even have to go back previous to this. But humans have been killing each other for as long as humans have been around. So to live in this false reality where they think that there's never going to be a war ever again, they're fucking retarded. They're living in a complete false reality.
Yeah.
Because they're not taking into account the last 2,000 years of human development and evolution and history and societies like rise and fall. And if they get complacent, and when they get complacent, they're allowed to ultimately be distracted by bullshit. And then that continues to kind of develop. And I think we've fed ourselves these, they're not even complex lies. It's like, you can go to college. I'm going to reference this because of the college debt elimination. It was like $8 billion or something like that. I can't remember exactly the details of it.
Why do people call it elimination anyway? Because is it actually going to be just erased off the books, or is it just going to be aggregated to
I
the
literally
taxpayer?
have no idea.
Yeah.
Like I
feel
have no
it's
idea
not
what
gonna
I'm
be-
talking about.
But I feel like it's not, people use that term
Where
like,
am I?
oh,
Yeah.
they'll say
Who are you
forgive the
guys?
debt. It's like, yeah, but aren't the taxpayers just each equally going to absorb a share of that? It's like,
Yeah.
it's not like it's forgiven.
But that's a good example. It's like, what fucking planet do people live on where they think they can go to college and that other people that have been working really fucking hard are going to pay their bills?
While they were fucking off.
Like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Not only fuck you, like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Like, you want to go get a bullshit liberal arts degree that allows you to do nothing other than wait tables for basically the same amount of money that you would have made graduating from fucking high school.
Mhm.
But you're going to take on $60,000 to $100,000 worth of debt, and then you're going to pass that debt on to like the guys that turn wrenches for a living that went on to do something else where, yeah, they might be making more money. I mean, a long haul trucker right now makes more than like a person with a liberal arts degree waiting tables.
Mhm.
So it's like your decisions in life and how they make them and how they affect other people. And this whole notion that if you go to a university or a college and you get a 4-year degree, that you're somehow fucking better than other people in the United States and somehow they need to pay your bills. Like, fuck you. This is one of the reasons why people don't like the left side, because there's nobody on the right that I know of that I talk to is like, you know what? I think it's perfectly acceptable that long haul truckers have to pay the student debt for, you know, the liberal arts degrees that are still waiting tables that have $100,000 worth of student debt.
Mm.
Like, nobody fucking that I talk to thinks like that ever. Maybe I live in a like very
I wonder how the people who have that debt and want it to be absolved, I wonder, and I don't know how this structure would exist, but I wonder if we could find another group of people that somehow, so let's say you had to go into debt to become a trucker.
Sure.
I wonder how those who are saying, I shouldn't have to pay this, would feel about having to pay somebody else's debt if the tables were flipped on them.
Well,
I don't have an answer to that.
I don't either.
I'd be very curious to see if they were as tolerant.
They wouldn't be. I don't think they would be. I don't think they would be. Like,
Yeah.
I was reading some article the other day about how what we're headed for in the next 3 years is there's a significant shortage in long haul truckers. If we don't get another 20% backfilling, specifically within long haul truckers, like there's going to be a logistics crisis within the United States. And I'm thinking, okay, you know, because you see the billboards, you're like, you know, come to work for, you know, so-and-so's long haul trucking.
They're plastered all over the trucks right
fucking
now.
everything, right? So we actually need those. As a society, we need that to function. Like, we don't need some of these other things. When I say like as a society, like do I really need somebody to like bag my groceries? Not really. I can bag my own fucking groceries, but I can't.
I prefer to.
Yeah, so do I. But I can't drive a fucking semi. Like,
Oh, that's not true.
like, I can.
We could all figure that shit out.
You don't figure it out.
That's what I was thinking as I was looking at you. I was like, truck
we can
driver.
figure it
I was
out.
going to say, you just took
Over
us
the
for
top.
riding the Bronco.
Yeah, over the top. Boom.
Do
Like,
you have a semi here? I bet you we can get that shit
You
started.
should have
and
had
drive
a
in
Black
5.
Rifle Coffee decked out semi truck.
you're right.
Why don't you have one of those?
I don't know, Mike. Like, why? It's why are
you
you
can put the
why are you
Bronco in
making
it.
fun of me for not having a semi?
The Bronco?
Dude, you
Are we
can
allowed
put
to talk
the
about
Bronco in it and then bring it to Kalispell, which is where it's going to be until you give it away.
I love it. Yeah. Yeah, we can talk about the Bronco. It's 1973. Well, technically ish. It's a fully custom 1973 Bronco.
Yeah.
850 horse at the wheel. Buffalo hide interior. So we're giving it away to Coffee Club subscribers. So you got to be a subscriber to win. You got to join the Coffee Club. You got to join the Coffee Club.
The regular one or the ECS?
You can be. It's either way.
What does ECS stand for?
Exclusive coffee subscription.
Oh, I've been fucking that up on my ad reads.
It's fine.
I'm like, that's Evan's coffee subscription.
Yeah. We can do either one. I'm the guy that develops all that shit.
That's what I said. I'm like, I'm pretty sure Evan is like mixing these beans and roasting them for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's basically.
I'm glad you don't listen to the ad reads on the podcast because they're unacceptable most of the time.
I like them.
Yeah.
I've heard a few of them. They're really good.
Yeah.
I like the fact like you
My
don't
last
have
one's like, if you don't want coffee that tastes like it was stirred with a dick, get Black Rifle coffee.
I like that.
I like that too. Yeah, the coffee subscription is like there's so many different reasons why I love it, but the ECS, it's my favorite. And like you have to register your email to get it, blah, blah, blah. We don't need to turn it into a commercial.
Are
But
there
you
actually even open slots for it? Because for a while you glass ceilinged it out, right?
Yeah, we're capped. So every month there's, a couple hundred people that fall off. And so we typically have 2,000 to 3,000 emails like ready to go for the people that want to get it. And it's the coolest art. Like we do all that stuff in-house. It's fucking rad. Like I love that. And that's what I'm drinking right now is Medusa's Madness. And depending on how much psilocybin the guys downstairs are taking is
how much is in the coffee? Microdosing?
Directly reflect the, right? Yeah, Derek's like shaking his
head. It's just microdosing. It's totally healthy.
No, that's a macro dose. You're naked, Cam. Yeah. Jesus, man. You're taking a macro dose, boy.
On the logistics thing, I just heard.
Hold on. We're talking about the Bronco. Let's not go down the logistics rabbit hole yet.
Yeah.
So
it had to do with the
yeah, that's how we went down.
Had to do with the parts.
So the whole thing with this was I wanted to do what I felt was the perfect Bronco, the perfect vehicle for a subscriber giveaway.
It's not a Bronco though.
It is.
The perfect Bronco is not what I'm saying is the perfect Bronco is not using anything from a Bronco because it would kill you.
No, that's not true. It has a VIN plate.
It does. It does. It has a VIN number.
It's an original.
Yeah.
Pulled off one vehicle.
And I was more curious as to how much is it going to cost me to build this? And then what I wanted to do is give it back to the subscribers because a subscription, it's something I started in my garage. It means like everything to me as far as like being a subscription, being a subscriber. It's like, let me give something back. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to tear this out. I'm going to make this Bronco. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And the Bronco, it got a little bit out of control. It did. I capped it. Initially, I was like, I'm going to spend $200,000 on this. It's going to be epic.
And then you immediately blasted through that?
And then I immediately fucking went to 300. And then I went to 4. Oof. And I was like, okay, well, don't even show me the last invoice. I don't give a fuck because it's going to be given to a subscriber. And so now I've got a year before I give it away. And I mean, it is the most incredible vehicle. It came directly out of my head into the designers and then they built it.
So they don't do that as a production vehicle? They custom that? Like
everything on that is a
There's
one-off.
No way that thing
Shut up.
Well, we both laid down
everything
and looked underneath. Like the outside of it and the interior's fantastic. A picture underneath of all the work that went into that, the wrapping and the protection and the suspension.
It's crazy.
Shit.
It's crazy.
Yeah. It's crazy. You can race it and like, it's not going to be like, a racing truck, but we took it to the mountains and we put it through its paces and it's fucking gnarly. Like it is fucking
an apocalypse
gnarly.
For sure. The fact that you could potentially own that for a coffee subscription.
It's nuts.
Yeah. I offered you $5,000 and you denied it.
I denied it.
$5,001 after that.
Yeah. It's fucking wild, but I do need a semi. You're right. We do need a semi.
Yeah.
Like we just need
the
one.
Bronco could be put in and brought to Kalispell.
Correct. Yeah.
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 We're going to have a huge outdoor area. I'm just saying by the coffee shop. You could just park it right there.
I'm excited. I'm excited for the coffee shop. When is that ready to go?
Fuck. I hate and hesitate to put the opening date out there.
Yeah.
I'm going to say November 15th. But
really? This year?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Whew. There's a very good chance, though, construction will be done a month before that.
Right.
And we may or may not be open stress testing the systems, getting everything up and running. But it's been fast. I think I sent you the picture where they dropped the metal into the foundation. So the foundation
looks fucking amazing.
Structural steel is up.
Once that goes in, it's
in the next 30 days. It should be a completely dried-in building, connected to the brick historical building that's going to be the back of house, and like everything is going to be inside work at that point. It's going to be fucking badass.
When are you going to do one?
I'm waiting on you. I want to do one with I want to do one where the need is. I'd like to do a one in Dallas. Because we're doing a Philcraft survival, like what we have here.
Too many already in Texas. You guys need to think outside the box.
Well, Dallas, Texas, because we did the geographical stuff on it. 7.6 million people in Dallas-Fort Worth.
Yeah.
And when I went there and with a day's notice, I said, I hit up the Black Rifle in Dallas and they because of Memorial Day, they didn't want to do events, which is appropriate. So I just put out a feeler. I said, hey, if you got a warehouse space, hit me up. And the guys from Black Dog Traders who do Land Cruiser rebuilds.
Oh, yeah.
Like from scratch.
Right.
Dude, Austin runs it. They gave me the building.
That's cool.
I said, hey, show up. This is 12 hours and had 120 people show up.
Shut the fuck up.
On the blind on a Friday
Seriously?
evening, just showed the fuck up. I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, what is going on here? Then I started looking at the demographics. I'm like, we have to have an HQ there.
Yeah.
So we're doing a HQ with training. We'll do simunitions, pro shop, and then a Black Rebel Coffee. Small, like Neil and Casey's in Ready Gunner down in Provo. Their stuff went up fast in Spanish Fork.
Yeah.
I was surprised at how
I
fast.
forgot they were the owners of the Spanish
Dude, it
Fork
went up
one.
so damn fast.
Dude,
Once you get past a certain build point, it's rapid.
Bro,
it's rapid.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, we're building a lot. I've got. I talked to what I hope. I think Don Jr. is going to do some in Florida, so
Nice.
he'll do a couple. Which
I visited the one in Niceville, actually. I
It's
happened to
nice.
be there. We flew in for a jiu-jitsu seminar
Yeah.
in the airport.
it's a
I was like,
really
my
good
head
shop.
I was like, son of a bit. We went in there, didn't know anybody, spent 30 minutes with the manager, like back of house, walking us through a system. It's such a cool community.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, this is what we're getting ready to build. He's like, oh yeah, come on back. He
Was
shows-
Charlie down there, or
He
who was
was.
down there?
It
Yeah.
was- I forget the manager's. I have his name card in my wallet, but couldn't have been cooler. Like random dude off the street. He's like, yeah, just come on back.
The thing is
Yeah.
crushing
The
it
shit
too.
Jamie mixes, like I'm sweating profusely right now.
Jamie didn't make that coffee.
Like I got swass going
like,
on this.
Jamie
stool right
doesn't
now. I'm
make
sweating.
coffee.
You need to back
She's-
it off a notch.
Yeah.
right.
Like I'm sweating too because it's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, but I like to really ramp it up throughout the
Let's-
day.
Let's talk some serious topics.
I want to talk a serious topic.
I got one too.
I'm first.
Okay.
Because
I got one too. That's true. He's been pulling rank on me for the last 48 hours.
I fucking have
Oh
to.
yeah,
You won't
well,
respect.
once
he
I
pulled
found
his
out that he
ID
was
card.
a legit officer, I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah.
oh, what the fuck?
If you
he's
guys,
like a lieutenant or something.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
If
He's
you guys
lieutenant
want
first
to-
class petty officer
you
too.
call me sir if it makes you feel better.
Butter bar.
Lieutenant
I wasn't
first
a
class
butterbuck.
petty officer chief, right?
I was a lieutenant,
Which is a
bars.
captain, right?
It would
I mean,
be
that's a captain.
It's an
in the-
03.
Captain in the Navy
Army.
is a fucking 05. I love
Yeah.
it when they confuse
Yeah.
this.
I know.
I was reading an article the other day. It was about you.
Oh, good.
How does it feel to be the most dangerous CEO?
Oh,
Is
I
that
don't
what
know.
it said?
mhm.
Fuck yeah, it did. I don't know if it said the world or did it say the United States?
United States, I think.
How does it feel to be there?
I got excerpts or just passages from it, and I thought it was.
Frickin' Hafer.
I thought it
is
was
what I call
funny.
you from here on out.
What is this, the
Yeah.
lawsuit thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's some kook. Like it's just like there's like some kook, and this is what they do. Like this is the thing. Like with a public company, and any of these public companies, like your first year is kind of like
Figuring shit out.
you're
letting it
figuring
settle.
shit
Yeah.
out, and it's like, and you always get hit with people. This is their business model. Like it's like you get hit with these things. And it's like this is their business model. That whole thing. I'm not even going to reference who they are, but it was like this is some fucking kook that, like whether or not he invested or not, like we don't fucking know.
Oh, wow.
Didn't even file the right paperwork.
But
But-
you have to respond though, right?
No, I mean I'm going to have to respond
I mean,
to.
as a company being public,
Mhm.
I would imagine that's one of the downsides because legitimate or not, it's not like you can ignore it. You have to allocate energy
yeah.
and resources. That's got to be exhausting.
It is and it isn't. Like you just kind of know this is the deal. Like you know that this is like the deal in being a public company. And like I've heard it all, right? It's like because there's a section of the internet that loves to like just fucking take shots, you know?
Yeah.
And that's just like the internet in general because it's like trolling is a fucking business.
Yeah,
it's like
boost their analytics.
like I've had analysts say like
about trolling. Sometimes
trolling is I mean, trust me, I love being a fucking troll just like anybody else.
I don't do it a lot, but I do it sometimes.
It's fun.
Usually on Tim Kennedy's page.
Yeah, exactly. Tim's easy one.
His book's up, by the way.
Came
Just
out
a
today.
shameless
Scars and
plug.
stripes.
I
Yeah.
have an excerpt where I saved him in sniper school just for your essay.
Good. Yeah.
Your windage call?
Yep. His partner
Bailed, right?
his partner sucked really
Right.
bad. And God bless his soul because he wound up getting killed later.
Well,
He
let's
was-
be honest too.
he sucked.
In sniper school, your spotter can totally fuck you.
Mm-hmm.
They're like,
Oh, yeah.
dude,
Yeah, he fucked him.
10 ring. And then
Yeah.
you walk up to your target and like, hey, motherfucker, there's no holes in this. And you were telling me not to make an adjustment because there's an
Yeah.
They're like, ew, my bad, your score's 0.
Yeah, that's
Fuck.
what I would do if I was in sniper school with Mike.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
Wow.
I would.
Yeah, but the windage call,
Competition's bitch, man.
the windage call is an art form. People who think they have a scientific method for that, like that's an art form. And that's where
It is.
his buddy was.
He didn't know how to call wind. And then me and my partner were top shot in cyber school. And at the time, we
It's
didn't
a
know
weird
that.
flex.
But we were doing it.
is,
I know, I
right?
flexed
Like
a
an
little bit. My pecs
unnecessary-
actually flexed up.
It's like an unnecessary addition to the story.
Well, It just shows my efficiency. So I called his partner called him. They failed the field shoot. They had to pick 2 guys, or they had to pick a team to replace their spotters to spot for them.
Mm-hmm.
And the incredible thing is how, at the time, fucked up the cadre were. Not all of them. There's rock stars that were there. In fact, I hired 2 of my cadre that are training directors for me, Sean Kirkwood and Kevin Owens, rock stars. But there was one guy that, in particular, who wanted Tim to fail. And
because of Tim?
Because they just didn't like him.
Yeah.
And
personality conflict.
It was jealousy. A lot of it was like, whatever. And so I was like, listen, and at the time I was like a senior dude, and I was in the Commanders and Extremist Force on a recce team.
Right.
So my job was being a sniper. And so I took this serious. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, and Tim was the same deal. He was in C-37. He was in a SIF. And I was about to go down range. I said, look, you just told him he failed. He's got one more shot left.
Yeah.
And in the book, it doesn't talk this in detail. But I said, get the NCOIC and make him have him come here. And they were like, oh shit, this dude's flexing on fucking NCOIC. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Like, you can kick me out of this school.
Right.
Like, where's the NCOIC at? And at the time, I was a dude named Eric from 10th Group. He came in and he said, what's going on? And he was all confused. And I gave him the lowdown. And good on him for being an NCOIC, being in charge and making the right call. He said, the benefit of the doubt always goes to the student, which is the right call.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Sniper school is a training school. It's not an assessment school. And these guys already have shown they have the competency and aptitude to succeed. So train them. So he literally pulls out a M118 308 round and says, he hands it to me and he goes, Mike, you have one target. If he misses, he fails sniper school. If he hits it, you pass. Then he hands it over to the cadre, who's the dickhead, and says, you have to identify his target. So the idea in a field shoot is unknown distances. You have a time limit or constraint for milling the target and then shooting the target. This is range 66. They have ranges from a couple hundred meters out to 800 meters. And, at 800 meters, the 300 rounds going transonic. It's starting to shift into being subsonic, which means it's more unstable. So it's more difficult, more inconsistent. So he goes to call the target and immediately he gives it to me and I have to walk on my shooter, who's Tim, and he chooses the farthest fucking target. And immediately I'm like, this is fucking dickhead. So I look in his binos. He goes, can you see the target? Because you have to look in his binos and you go, can you identify the target? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm just stalling a little bit. And I look at the target and it's a full-size IPSC or a full-size E-type silhouette.
Yeah.
Not one hit on the target the whole day.
Solid.
I'm like, fuck.
So we're talking about 800 meters?
800 meters, right?
Why do you guys use meters instead of yards in the Army?
Because we're superior.
Yeah. It's a more accurate unit of measurement.
Mil radian out the distance becomes more accurate beyond 500 yards. If you start getting more
I find a laser rangefinder to be the most accurate measurement. Of course, they didn't issue me one of those in sniper school.
I don't like to shoot past 20.
We were milling stuff in sniper school too. It's like, hey guys, I know this is the early 2000s, but if I hit the button on this, it tells me exactly what the and it compensates for angle. Can I have that? They're like, no. I'm like, fuck.
So this
and take your Gore-Tex off.
So we're in a situation where we have a time limit, and Tim just failed because of his spotter. He gets down behind the gun. I look through my spotting scope, and I said, hey, Timmy, here's the target, macro, micro. We get him on the target, and I said, listen, I'm gonna get you set up, and then I'm gonna call the win. This is pre-game. And he said, Roger. I told him how I operate. He gets down behind it, and I said, let me know when you're ready. He says, ready. So that's my initiation for the win call.
Right.
On the last breath of my win call, he should be breaking that shot.
Yeah.
So I said, he said, ready? I said, left 1.5. At the end of 5, he should be breaking that shot immediately. Right. Because he has it, he does left, he shifts left, holds the 1.5 and sends it, and I hear no shot. He comes up off the gun and turns around and looks at me and goes, are you sure? And I was like, Tim, get ready. I was about to motherfuck him, but I didn't say anything. He gets back on the gun, and in the book, he actually described it. He was taken back by it because his partner before was very not confident about the call. The call to me is science. It's data. It's what I'm reading. There's no deviation.
Yeah.
It's clear, concise communication.
And even if you don't know, fucking sell
Fucking
it.
sell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
7 left.
You're a salesman.
7 left.
7 left. Send it. Like, oh, you missed by a lot. Maybe
So
4 left.
He breaks it left. I said left, and I.
You should explain what you're talking about, because
Yeah,
you're talking about 1.5 mil dots left.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's in a reticle, there's mils that is a unit of measure that translates to what the round is doing in external ballistics where gravity's affecting it at distance. So I would call left 1.5, which is deviating based off of the wind I'm seeing. And I'm analyzing the wind. It's actually a strong wind. A 1.5 plus is going to be a hard, and it might have been a 1.6.
Mil dot to mil dot is what? 3.3 MOA?
Yes, it's about that.
And so 1.5 would be about, call it 5 MOA for easy math at 800 yards. You're
Lot of
talking
inches.
40 inches left of the actual desired impact point.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Coriolis effect, the wind spin drifting. There's a lot of things going on. So he breaks the shot. When he breaks the shot, I'm reading Trace and I'm like, I could get off the glass because I already know it's good. It impacts the center of the target. I see the poof. As I get off the glass, you hear the ting.
Right.
So I'm like trying to be a professional.
Right.
So I stand up and I tap Tim on the shoulder. I'm like, good job. He's like, motherfucker. He's like Xing his crotch and shit. And
He's doing Tim things.
Yeah.
But he said in the thing he wanted to break out in the MC Hammer dance. And I think he did. He doesn't realize
Probably
he did.
Yeah.
But he's like, yeah, fuck it. And then I just kind of faded away into the crowd, right?
Right.
The entire class, the instructors were trying to get me fucking fired. I found this out later from Ricky Harris, a good buddy of mine from third group, who's one of my instructors. He's like, dude, they were after you. And that's the toxicity that's these dudes who were like, I'm like, these motherfuckers are going back to the teams that I'm on.
Yeah.
And they did. Some of those guys came back to the company.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck that dude.
Right.
That's how you get cold cocked in a bar.
100%.
I saw Buzz instructors were being like that. They were just
Dickheads.
They were playing the character. And so I taught in second phase where, like, once they passed the diving test, they probably were going to make it into the community. You have to have a shift where you respect the relationship, but you're training your peers now.
Right.
And if you don't have that, like, I mean, I hold a grudge still against the dickhead Buds instructors that I've never seen since that day that I hope that I do. It's like, why would you assume that nobody else is the same way? Like, you're going to knock the fuck out at a bar by some dude you treated like shit and don't even remember because you were playing a character.
Right.
It's just not professional, man.
No.
It's bullshit. And we didn't tell you this, but when we left you skydiving.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a great time. Thank you for that, by the way.
Yeah,
it was amazing. Like everything that set
How
up.
awesome is Skydive San Diego?
It's so awesome.
And
man.
Jeff,
So fucking cool.
Jeff, the owner, is like, got waivers for his kids to start jumping at like 16.
Dude,
They're
so
back in
awesome.
parachutes.
He's a former team guy.
Yeah.
And then who's the dude that is
Jim Woods?
Jim Woods.
Jim is badass.
Also
man.
former team guy. He's I forget his
Thank you, Jim.
actual role, but yeah, your guys' rig should be done actually very soon.
I'm hyped about it, man.
Yeah,
it
I
was
think
fun.
you texted me today about it.
Yeah.
I have a 190. I have a PD 190 right now. So I was jumping 190 when I was there.
Were you?
So I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to go.
That's a soft landing for you.
I don't want to do that.
A little bit loose.
It's going to be loosey-goosey.
We went to
You guys went to Bud's, right?
we went to
So
the
are you
area.
a team guy? So are you a SEAL?
Officially.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got the
We were at
the
a
tattoo.
burrito taco shop and in a very SEAL-centric area.
Yeah.
Between the two of us, guess who got recognized first?
Mike.
Fuck yeah.
He's very recognizable.
It's true.
I'm Asian.
Yeah.
I'm the only Asian in this space.
I like
things.
how you're like breaking Asian stereotypes, like one rally race at a time too.
But
I love it.
He's fucking with me. He goes, oh yeah, they just recognized you. They're coming over. They walk right past me. Are you Mike Glover? Yes.
But then I turn around and it's like, hey, you realize this is Andy Stumpf. And then the guy goes, are you Andy Stumpf? And Andy's like, he said something smart ass
I
like
said sometimes.
sometimes. And the guy was like kind of scared, like intimidated, like, oh fuck. And then they took pictures. But there were Bud students who were injured.
Oh,
They
okay.
were like
Right.
held back.
Do they look like children?
Dude,
They
like
just like
unbelievably
children.
so.
infants.
Yeah.
Shaved heads.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Ranger School students.
Yeah.
And then we went to his old stomping grounds and kind of, I'm filming content for Patreon now because of all the suppression that we got going on. So we did bonus reels walking up and down the beach, but he was talking about how he was a cadre there and all the experiences. It made me think about like our experiences in Camp McCall.
Yeah.
But our duty stations suck ass.
They
you
blow.
go to Coronado, San Diego, I would never leave that place. It's beautiful there. The weather was perfect. The women,
It's amazing.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
And we have Fort Bragg, Vietnam.
Vietnam is awesome. We talked about this, I think. I've talked about this.
I heard they're sister cities.
Like it is. They're like, it's Coronado and Fayetteville, our sister cities. The city architects are the same. It's the same. Like
big shithole.
Dude, that's one of the biggest things where it's like the Navy guys get the best.
Everything.
Like
they're treated like
you got to be on the
stars.
coast.
No headgear.
And they're the only combat. They're the only combat element in the fucking like in the entire
the combat arms element is the SEALs.
The SEAls.
I mean, there's
like
EOD and the SWIC guys as well too.
But I'm just kind of lumping everybody into that.
Okay. Yeah, EOD
just kind of saying that. But it's like in Army SOF, it's like, oh, what SOF unit are you in now? Because it's like there's 10 of them.
Yeah.
Who fucking knows? And then there's all these other people, and you're like, okay, well, and everyone else, like the Marines are like, well, everybody's special in the Marine Corps. There is no special.
Yeah, they're all special because they're not. That's the Marine Corps philosophy.
Yeah.
No one's special. Okay.
Yeah. I think that it's good for wokeness to transfer into the Marine Corps. Did you see that the Crayola
multicolored crayons on
the helmet? They posted it on Instagram. It was like,
was it the actual Marine Corps?
Yeah, it was the Marine Corps page.
You know, like a traditional, like full metal jacket, almost Vietnam era helmet, camo wrap over the top.
Yeah,
it had crayons going down the left side in the band, the colors of the Pride flag.
Well, because it's June.
During Pride. Yeah.
So this is a serious like a fucking problem for me.
Okay.
Last month was Asian Pacific Islander month. And I didn't hear shit about that. Like no corporations were talking about.
No,
Asian
I did.
Pacific
I
Islanders.
talked shit about you.
Yeah,
specifically.
you were being racist to me about being Asian, and I was like, I thought
we agreed this morning he was Hispanic.
I don't know.
I'm half Mexican.
Yeah,
I'm half Mexican. But I think the whole I saw it coming because all the memes, the corporate culture. But the fact that it's such. Like, it's seemingly such an impactful thing. And then you look at African American month, which is, I believe, February. And you're like, that's like legitimate. Like, give homage to great African Americans who have been leaders, have been innovators, suppression, all that, rised up. That's a thing, because that's a culture.
Yeah.
But if your sexual orientation, I don't care who you decide to sexually orient to.
Nice.
But that's not a culture. And people think it's a culture, but it's like, that's a sexual orientation. Being a human being and loving your children or loving your spouse, that's a human condition. That's like human stuff.
Right. But
we isolate it like it's a subculture. And I'm seeing like, I'm gonna be attacked for being transphobic, but it's like the transgender people interacting with kids because they want to like, this is their way of giving back. Like, no. Like, fuck no.
Oh, you mean like in that drag
They did like
stuff?
a drag show for elementary kids at some school.
It's fucking weird.
I'm like, dude, what the fuck is going on?
It's weird.
I don't see how that makes it through any level of scrutiny or approval process.
Oh, that's why my kids are never going to fucking school. I just hate it. I'm not sending them to school.
Yeah, because like you have
not even high school.
I seriously don't want to do it. If I had a private school or a chartered school where I know the conditions,
right?
My beef with that whole thing is when I grew up in school, even we were poor. I mean, we were truly, me and my dad living in poverty. He didn't make a lot of money. He sucked at the time trying to struggle. He was in the PTA meets. You know, he was involved.
Yeah.
He was raising his hand during meets and like getting involved.
Yeah.
You have none of that now. So the buy-in is like outsourcing your kids' education, like you do security, like you do all these things. I wanted to ask you about assault weapons ban. I mean, we talked about the suit thing, but assault weapons ban is looking like it has traction because it's the one thing they can go, well, we can get buy-in. And I don't think they'll get buy-in of restricting it because he already, even during his speech, he fucked up and he said his out, which was like, at least we get, like, if we don't get the guns banned, then at least we could agree on the 18 to 21 rule, which is 21-year-olds can buy an AR, but 18-year-olds you can't.
Right.
Even though me and you were in the military, we were all in the military very young.
Yeah, but there's an additional level of like education and supervision. Like I had an AR platform rifle in my hands from right when I first got into the teams, like 19, 20 years old, but constantly being supervised by, you know what I mean? It's not like I was running around with it.
Yeah.
And it loads up a different discussion. If you're going to, I have so many questions about that. First one being, what are they calling an assault weapon, right? That needs clarification as well. But why would we limit an 18 to 21-year-old from purchasing that when we allow an 8-year-old to decide what gender they want to be? Like there's a cognitive dissonance there about what people have the mental capacity to do. Like if you're worried that people are not responsible enough to decide whether or not they want to purchase a firearm, which all of us have I think we have to admit that we have a very unique relationship with guns because for me, and I always tell people this when I talk about guns, for me, it's like a hammer in a carpenter's belt. There's no mystique to firearms. And I'm not an expert on all firearms. I'm not an expert on legislation. I do understand how they work. I know how to work them.
Barely.
But you're a Navy SEAL, so you can say that you're an expert on all of that. And everybody's going to be like...
I used to be. That's another one. People are like, 50 years from now, people are like, and this is Navy SEAL Andy Stumpf. And my walker, I'll be like, I haven't been retired for quite some time now. But why, if you're going to say you don't have the mental capacity or responsibility to purchase that weapon, how can we say that, again, not to make it all about that, but how do you say that somebody who is half that age or younger is ready to make a decision that's going to shape the potential rest of their life? It's like an intellectual misbalancing of like you have to be this old to make this decision, but this one, it has no, like, what the fuck are we talking about?
I don't know. I think that there's a crisis, right? So it's a mental health crisis, and we as a society, and I think a lot of like fathers and mothers are being terrorized by crazy people. Like this is terrorism. So regardless of whether or not people want to say this is, non-applicable or applicable, there's a lot of people that drive their kids to school every fucking day and they're terrified that something's going to happen. Gun owners need to take responsibility and say, this is an issue and we have to have a narrative in this, in our country, in our society that says we still have to have the right to bear arms, but we have to communicate to the non-gun owner section of the United States in a way that is effective. Like I used 9/11 in this circumstance where it's like planes flew into the towers. We changed the way airport security was from that point forward because of an act of terrorism. Then we pursued terrorism internationally and we spent $1 trillion protecting the homeland plus in 20 years. So, okay, we have a problem in the United States which is traced directly back to psychotics, like people that are mentally fucking ill. So what do we do about this? Because, you still have to have, as a free society, we have to have our right to bear arms. We have to. This entire conversation about like, we just need to get rid of them or whatever the fuck. It's not possible. It's not possible.
It's a waste of time to even engage.
You can't unring the bell. Yeah. The bell is fucking rung. But now you can say we have a distinct reality that we live in and our children and our society are being terrorized by fucking crazy people having access to firearms. So what we have to do is we have to say, how do we catch this stuff early? And oh, by the way, fucking newsflash, every one of these guys was a problem, like a significant identifiable psychological issues for years leading up to this. So it's like, this is not a surprise.
Yeah, the FBI was new. FBI, they were on their radar. Both shooters.
Both. Really? So it's like, okay, so now what we have to do is we have to catch this stuff early.
Yeah.
And then we have to do something about the psychological issues and then either, figure out how we can put people in jail or how they can put them back into a fucking psych ward, like restrict their access. But limiting our freedoms as a free society.
As law-abiding citizens.
It only affects law-abiding fucking citizens. Like people that break the law don't give a shit because they're still going to do it.
Yeah.
But I think if people looked at this more from, this is terrorism and we as a society are being activated by fucking crazy people. So recognize it's a psychological issue. Then we can go to the root of the cause.
Yeah.
But 18 to 21, if you're fucking crazy at 18, you're going to be crazy at 21, more than likely, unless you've had help with medication and fucking counseling and a bunch of other shit. You're going to be crazy. So I'm like...
Did you see the video that I posted of the 16-year-old kid at the time in California running over the woman with a stroller?
No, I think I only saw that it was an article and they were talking more about that, the DA and a lax policy.
It was insane. So did you see that?
Mm-mm.
God, you guys don't follow me? And shit?
No, I do. It's just you're
Like
shadow
my
banned,
shit?
so I can't fucking see any of my friends. I can't even pull up my own account half the time.
This whack job 16-year-old kid who had been previously accused of trying to drug a girl on a date club, whatever the hell it is. I don't know the situation, but I know he got accused of that and potentially charged. He drives his car, hits a young mother with a stroller, walking down a back road.
Right.
She sees him coming. This is a CCTV camera on the building.
Did he know her?
He didn't know her.
Okay.
So he randomly turns down and he targets her, drives and runs her over the stroller and her. She gets flopped up on the windshield, rolls off. Dude, this chick was like Superwoman. Like she got hit.
Parkour.
She rolled on her knees and immediately got up and started sprinting towards the stroller and got her baby. No injuries besides scrapes and bruises.
Louise, man.
The 16-year-old, who is now 17, the DA just prosecuted him, charged him as a juvenile with simple assault. I mean, it's aggravated assault, but basically assault, right? Simple assault. It's a felony charge. He gets 7 months in juvie. And then when he's 18 years old, his record becomes expunged. It's completely gone. So you look at the system and you look at people. I believe the last statistic is 66% of all gun deaths that have been attributed this last year, which is it's always a year behind, it's 2021, 60+% were suicide.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
500-ish of those are self-defense. We're lumping in accidental deaths, we're lumping in suicides, and we have a number that scares the shit out of people.
Mm-hmm.
And the overwhelming majority of the active shootings that are taking place in this country is the minority overall of everything, right?
Yeah.
19 terrorists with box cutters changed the way we do security forever in this country because of their active terrorism.
But we didn't take our ability to fly away.
Yes.
It was, okay, there are there are layers of security that you have to go through in order to fly.
Yes.
We didn't say, okay, well, let's ground the fucking birds because, they're dangerous. Those planes are fucking dangerous.
You know what we actually did? We armed pilots.
Yeah.
Through programs. We put air marshals on the birds
planes
with guns.
We put armored fucking doors.
Yeah.
So pilots could still fly the plane. I was texting back and forth with one of my buddies. He's a principal at a school. And he's a principal of a school in Vermont. He's like, what do you do? Right. I'm like, well, these are the things that I would recommend, right? X, Y, and Z. This happens in your school. These are the things I would recommend. And then we were talking to the GBRS guys shortly after. And it's like, there's not a lot of people that actually know what to do. That's the other thing. There's just really a lack of knowledge in what to do, where there should be a sustainment training, like fire drills. Remember, we used to do fucking fire drills when I was growing up in elementary school, junior high, and high school. Like you'd have to do them constantly because people were afraid of losing their kids in a fucking fire.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, why are we not doing these types of drills directly related to emergency procedures? Because that's what they are.
Yeah.
And if the first time you're doing an emergency procedure is the only time you've ever seen it, you have a fucking problem.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at this and I'm like, you have to take away the aspects of like our right to bear arms, our constitutional rights. Like these are rights. And the solution is not, well, now let's just stop all or, some ban or whatever. It's like, no, man, like that's not going to prevent fucking crazy people from having access. Like if you don't have somebody in our schools, and I was thinking about this in the context of if there's a national security issue, we apply budget to that issue from the federal level, federal, state, local. There's only so many schools in the United States. They're actually fairly insignificant compared to the global war on terror and what we fucking spent on the global war on terror. And so having an armed guard that is like federally and state funded. Oh, by the way, when we look at police departments, they're woefully underfunded, like most of them in the United States. But it wouldn't be a complex or expensive initiative.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if taxes from firearms went to fund some of this, I'm pretty sure all gun owners would be like, yeah, I don't give a fuck. Like, sure, add another $5 to my fucking sale so we can do that. They're not going to care.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, this goes to armed guards at schools and universities across the United States forever. It's just like conservation. The sale of guns go back into conservation. Gun owners don't want their rights impeded. We want to continue to have access to be able to purchase guns. So if they're like, great, this goes to fund these initiatives, I think all of us would be like, great, let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's go for it.
Reasonable.
Reasonable. Not like the tax stamp for suppressors that's like $1,000 or whatever the fuck the government wants.
Or red flag laws, man.
Yeah, that's just, those are just fucking insane.
Dude, when you say red flag, that's a red flag to me, because immediately I'm like, so you're telling me that a government official who has no understanding of how this works is going to dictate that if somebody's flagged, and it's very subjective, obviously, that they're going to determine whether or not, number one, red flag laws already exist with issues like domestic violence.
Correct.
Right? That you get your guns taken away. If you're charged with a misdemeanor or a felony that involves domestic violence, you will lose your guns.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so
they'll come in and take them.
Shit. Yeah, completely. And then you have to go through a whole process to be able to get your stuff back. But then I see like the idea that red flag laws would mean that if you're a veteran with post-traumatic stress, that you would be screened. If you screen me, I've already been screened and I have PTSD according to the VA that's associated with TBI.
Right.
They said, well, you have TBI. We're not saying you have PTSD, but we're saying because you have TBI, do you have similar symptoms from TBI that are related to PTSD? I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't say that in the paperwork. I'm a contractor. I don't want you to just haphazardly put PTSD when you're telling me it's TBI related.
Right.
Like, this is how it works. You said you went to war. You said you killed bad guys. You said you saw dead bodies. You said you lose sleep. You got PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take it. Give me the disability, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you look in that record and then I'm screened and they go, well, Mike, how do you feel? I feel great. Well, let's talk about war. Well, you don't really want to talk about war. You don't want to ask me about war because all the things I'll tell you will scare the shit out of you. Like the first time I said, they interviewed me and said, have you ever been to war? Yes. Have you ever killed people in war? Yes. Have you ever seen dead bodies? Yes. How many dead bodies have you seen? Hundreds. That's very unlikely. Let's try to distill some of this. What do you mean it's very unlikely? Like we've as a task force, we killed 160 people in 90 days.
Right.
What do you mean you killed 160 people in 90 days? All small arms, by the way, no CAS. What do you mean? Like, I saw 160 bodies that rotation because I mostly did sensitive site exploitation on all their bodies. And I stripped them butt ass naked. What? There's guys that do that? Yeah, there's guys that do that. So I am the enemy. I am red flagged and you're taking my guns away. It's like, what the fuck are we even talking about? How about you focus on the insane human being who needs psychological help in a mental health crisis?
Which is it's a good segue for me to talk about myself. So a couple of years ago, Tulsi was one of the only Democrats that came out against, and what it was the ATF was going to require that psychological records be pulled on veterans to purchase firearms. And
this is when you were fundraising for the Democratic Party.
This is yes. So this is when I was like, yo, dude, she fucking stepped up because she blocked it. And she said, no, this is wrong. And she went to war in her own party for that. And that's why I was like, oh, this chick has stones. And that's exactly why when she ran for fucking president and all these other things, I was like, hey, dude, whatever I can do for that.
I supported her as well.
Yes, absolutely. Because she went to fucking war for us.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need the ATF pulling into my VA records because who the fuck, bureaucrat, snuffy rifleman Magoo that got like washed out in second phase of, basic training that went ahead to go be a, special agent for the ATF that has a fucking chip on his shoulder.
Oh yeah. These Green Berets, fuck these Green Berets.
These guys. Like, fuck all these guys who went to war. or all the guys that have a fucking vendetta, which actually we know a lot of people I did at least at the agency, where they had a chip on their shoulder for everybody that went to war. It's like, you guys went to war.
Because they didn't.
They missed the boat.
They didn't.
Yeah, they missed the boat.
They either missed the boat or they were fucking pussies.
Yeah.
And they decided to take other positions within the agency that kept them nice and safe. And so what they had to do is they had to grind you into fucking moon dust because you were a threat. You represented something that directly could take away their position of authority based on experience. And if people thought of you as a subject matter expert within a field specifically related to combat, then you had an edge. That made you the enemy within a professional subculture of people. And I've seen it too on the internet. Like you've seen it probably in the last year. It's picked up steam where there is a section of the internet that I've heard this bullshit narrative from these idiots that are like, well, real patriots don't work for the government, or whatever, right? Like, I'm sure you've heard that bullshit.
Always, like yesterday.
It's like, real patriots don't do this. And it's like, fuck you.
Yeah.
It's like the fiber of our great country that I think all of us love. It's like when you represent it, there's no greater representation of service than jeopardizing your life, limb, or eyesight and going over and serving our country. And this entire conversation that we're having as a society, there's sections that have professional animosity against some of us that have what I call is carried the fucking heaviest rucksacks. Mm-hmm. And I would not put myself in that category. I would put other people that have carried much harder fucking a long list of fucking really patriotic people that have done way more than I have. But there is some definitive animosity, both professional and then within our society, between people that have done this and people that have not.
It goes back to what you were talking about earlier, the sense of security.
Yeah. What'd you say?
The sense of security.
Yeah.
And I think it would be a fascinating conversation, even though I don't know if most would engage in it, of talking to those people who feel that way about our old job, asking them to describe and define actually what it takes to secure a nation.
Yeah.
What policies do you actually even know of that are in place from a DOD perspective, from a federal government perspective? What's our foreign policy? What's the DOD's role in all of that? Do you even know what it takes to provide for you the bubble, which I'm glad that they have,
so do I,
to live in that very detached headspace where I don't know, emotionally and mentally, I can't get myself to that decision-making place that they're at. I don't think it would be possible for us based on, again, what we saw, which is unique. It doesn't make us special, but I have so many fascinating questions for those people, and they seem to, and the internet's not the right medium.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Eventually it just becomes fuck your mother, and I'm like, well, that's super rude.
Yeah, it's really rude.
And so now I'm just going to fuck with your Instagram page for years. But I have more questions. I'm fascinated by that headspace. I'm fascinated by what they have done in their life, what they have experienced in their life. And more often than not, when I am able to engage with them, it's like a pinprick before that ideology actually really crumbles onto itself. And then that's when it really just degrades to go fuck yourself. Well, on their side. Because I'm like, I'll talk about it. I'm like, oh, you think I'm a terrible person because I went overseas and you think I was oppressing Iraq and Afghanistan. Yeah. I'm like, let me tell you about my own experiences fighting side by side with those people and what they told me and what they felt about us being there and the things that we did. And that's the lens I have on what's yours. And it's like memes. Like,
memes.
Okay. And obviously I'm speaking broadly, but more often than not, their lens and the context that they have is super shallow.
Well, I think there is constantly a social media conversation that's taking place that is not sophisticated in any way, shape, or form. It's all driven, to your point, it's all driven from memes. And so there's a huge, and I wouldn't say it's directly propaganda or direct misinformation. It's people are having fun doing what they do with memes.
Awesome.
They're fucking rad. They're awesome. But it's also people have taken those and said, this is how I get my fucking news now.
I got my PhD through memes.
Yeah, and you're like, dude, there's a big sophisticated conversation underneath all of this. Don't get me wrong, I love a good meme and it's fucking, especially when they're about me and they're rad.
One of the best ones I saw recently, going back to Johnny Depp, was a picture of him leaving the courthouse. And it's like, today is the day that you almost caught Captain Jack Sparrow.
That's a good one.
Right after they had read the verdict and he won. It's like, fucking memes are awesome.
They're awesome. That's what the internet is for.
Yeah.
Like, I love it. And I think that over the last couple of years, I've seen it where there's things that they get steam and you're like, but that's just like blatantly false, like whatever it might be. And then they just get more and more and more and more traction, and they wind people up and they wind them up and they wind them up. And you're like, man.
I have a good example of this. I don't know if you guys actually, I did a podcast with a guy who was in town last weekend for a jiu-jitsu seminar, but he works in the firearm space, and he reposted something that NPR posted. And this is how shit can get out of control. The AR-15 is designed to blow targets apart. Its bullets travel with such velocity that they can decapitate an adult. That's like NPR's page with the blue check mark, which is a sign of legitimacy for a lot of people. And I on my personal social media, I avoid engaging. It's just like, fuck. And when we were doing the podcast, I was describing the comment section on his post that he made about that. It's a combination of a prison yard and a pig pen. It's horrendous. But there is a subsection of people or a foundation of people who follow NPR that take that as gospel.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. I've had multiple conversations with people.
I wish an AR-15 would be capable of decapitating somebody.
Isn't that
you know
rad?
Yeah. I mean, like, we'd be so much more effective at our job overseas.
Like a Beowulf 50. That might be.
I've watched people take 300 Win Mag rounds between the eyes at 100 yards. And yes, it deformed their head a little bit, and there's some Jackson Pollock action going on, but it didn't decapitate them.
Right. I know. I'm just trying to think about what it would take. What is the projectile that it would take to decapitate somebody? I was thinking about
14.5.
Yeah.
A
okay.
Zukia
Would rip or like
that
a 40.
head off.
Do you think a 40 millimeter, like inside the arming range?
Yes.
Do you think
40 Mike?
Yeah. Inside the arming range.
It would lob the head. It might have some attachment left.
Yeah.
Be a little stringy.
Yeah. It'd be stringy.
Yeah.
Like
what is it? 18 rotate? Was it 18 meters?
33.
33.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I know of a guy that shot a dude with a 40 Mike inside the arming range.
We probably know the dude too.
Yeah.
Well,
can you imagine how much that would fucking
Harvey? Well, it fucking put a hole in him.
That's what I was going to say. Like,
who's the other guy?
It probably did kill him.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And like he was describing it to me because I was like, oh my God, you did that? We were in Mosul. He's like, yeah, man, it's awesome.
God, there's another guy I know. We used to have the thumpers, the Vietnam era.
Yeah, the pirate guns, M79.
Pirate guns, M79.
How the fuck do I know this terminology? You guys are the unconventional
because you're the
experts.
officer.
Yeah, you were doing the academics version. We were doing that practical application.
You can saw that shit down, saw off the wooden handle of an M79.
He was learning the stats to the talk.
Like,
he's like, what are the men using out in the field?
Yeah,
he's like, I need to analyze all. We were actually killing guys.
We had the fucking GLMs. Like once we went over there. No, we had it was a side breech GLM.
Yeah.
The HK to also mount on the bottom of your 416.
Okay.
It was super, super fun little gun.
I have a Navy SEAL who AD'd an M79 on a Baghdad International Airport. I tell you that story? So
I saw a guy do that in just outside of Kabul. He fucking skipped one off the skipped it off the fucking floor of the helo and it went out the door.
Oh God. That would make me shit my pants.
Here's the thing. We got to be cautious how many of these stories we tell because
especially about Navy SEALs.
People listening right now are going to be like, I thought these were the most highly trained, capable motherfuckers. Because I got story after story of dudes in the back of Humvees like falling asleep and depressing the butterfly on a fucking 50 cal and it's at a 45, but just gush 18 miles later when that thing comes down.
I've seen them all. I've seen the FBI HRT, AD assault in the embassy.
Dude, how about
that's fucking awesome. I saw the CIA's director detail. One of the guys on the detail shot himself in the foot. and it's just like I was sitting there in my room one day. It's like, bang. I was like, whoa, I know what that is. Because there wasn't more. You know what I mean? When it's like bang, and there's nothing left.
It's all quiet.
After that, it's all quiet. You're like, oh, I know what that is. And you like start sniffing around. Like, oh shit!
And there's one guy who's not moving, who's staring.
And dude was in front, like pretending, like going like. I was like, looking around, and there's a big fucking chip out of the walkway, big fucking chip.
Yeah.
And he's like trying to whistle and like look around and pretend like nothing happened. It's like,
you're bleeding.
yo, dude, you have a fucking hole in your foot. But he's like, I'm good. I'm just walk it off, man. I get go to the doc and get some ibuprofen, drink water. I don't know who. And I was like, yeah, okay. Anyway, I gotta go. So it was fucking awesome, dude.
I was not physically present for this, but I heard this from multiple people. JSOC operator.
Yeah.
In a chow hall, like one of the smaller chow halls early on. For whatever fucking reason, he is like drawing his gun. He'll drop the mag, jack a round out, and
dry fire.
Yeah, dry firing at
in the chow hall.
In the chow hall.
Wow.
In the chow hall?
Dude, he's getting his rehearsal on.
Yeah. It might not have been. It had to have been somewhere where there was food, because at the end of this, a box of Pop-Tarts dies. But he'd be like, pull bag out, jacket. Well, as you can imagine, at some point in time, he reversed his procedure.
Yeah.
Fucking full extension. Gagoosh!
He did a fucking office pop.
Damn.
Legit office pop, much like that 12-year-old who went in to rob the gas station. Have you guys seen this video? And just like, I think the clerk goes, "Are you serious?" He's just like, bam!
Yeah,
I'm serious. I'm serious.
We had one at the office when you used to train me. There was one in the little
highest
my
trained,
class.
Yeah, highest trained people on earth. JSOC operator.
Dude, was dry firing on a pasty and put it right through the pasty.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
Trailer.
It's amazing how accurate the dry/live fire round can be, because you're really not expecting that recoil. You know what I mean? You can just really break it.
You can really break it.
Yeah.
It's a surprise. It's a big surprise.
Yeah.
I had a dude in Mosul Chow Hall, and the way he was clearing his M9. So he was like a major. He just emptied the entire mag
in the barrel
into the barrel. Yeah, he's just like bang, 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 just so I can pulling the trigger. Like put his Air Pro in, his iPro, is just like bang, 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 bang. Just like kept shooting it into this.
He's like, that's
whoa, what the fuck is going on? He's like, I'm clearing and safing my fucking pistol. And I was like, this is awesome. Like, I wish I could see stuff like this every day.
God.
Where it's like everybody's like freaking out. You know, I like that so much, where you see people like, oh my God, the hive is just like,
and you're just like,
this is awesome.
This is awesome.
Yes.
We have to,
awesome.
We have to be careful with these stories. We can't tell too many.
We already told too many. We're committed. The M79 one was great because
I got one more for you guys.
What's this
so
one?
This is down south, like just south of Karbala and the invasion. This is a fucking good one. So we were getting fuel at a 101st Airborne fucking FARP. But there was a bunch of guys out there, and we were in a facility, and we hear, you know, and there's like perimeter probes. So guys are shooting every now and again. Like, it's just like normal, especially like there's this kind of gunfire going on like every now and again, right? But you just got used to it. It's a background noise. But then you hear the saw. I hear the saw fucking fire up. I'm like, I'm like, whoa, okay. So we're like getting our shit. Like, okay, man.
Very distinct cyclic rate of fire.
Yeah. You're like, okay, and it's not stopping. So you're like, oh shit. Okay, son. It's fucking for real now. And then dudes are running, but they're running away from it, away from the gunfire. So we're running towards it. They're running away, like, because it's like, you know, E3 snuffy and fucking like, and we're like, what the fuck is going on? You know, like, I don't know, man. Like, so dude has a runaway gun.
Oh God.
Private snuffy.
Runaway saw.
Yeah. So sear fucking bounces out or whatever it is. And you guys
the trigger probably fell out.
He fucking rolls out. So he's in a room. He's in a fucking little room, like we'll call it 8x8 with other guys. He just like pops smoke. He's like, bitch, I'm out. And,
it's a real hot potato situation.
He's a hot potato. He doesn't,
my God.
like, doesn't know how to, you know, curl the rounds or whatever it is that he's doing. So, dude, team leader comes in, or like E4 comes in, takes fucking round in the fucking thighs. Fucking squad leader comes in, takes a fucking round somewhere else. So that fucking saw, that runaway, every one of those guys like lived, by the way, but they all took rounds. There's 3 dudes that took rounds from a runaway gun going into the fucking, going in and to see what it was. And we were like, Jesus Christ. And I was like, I go back to the vehicles. I'm like, you guys, we got to get the fuck out of here. Like, this place is dangerous as fuck. We got to go back out there into Indian country because it's safer out there than it is in here. It's
so
safer.
true.
Yeah.
It's so true, though.
Can you imagine a saw not being held? Just like the behavior of the weapon.
it was literally...
I was doing low vis in Baghdad in 2006, and I had a guy behind me, and I had a runaway gun. We went through a big fucking pothole.
Yeah.
And it trimmed the fucking sear, and it fucking started. But I wasn't sure. I was thinking we were taking contact left, but we weren't, because I started seeing the fucking the panel beneath my fucking leg. I started seeing light fucking come through it, and I was like, oh shit, this is right behind my head, son.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Was it one of the ones on the mounts?
He had it in his fucking,
on his lap.
fucking hands on his lap.
Pop.
And it started.
Oh, God.
But he wasn't
just
fucking
held it?
doing anything. He was like holding it. And then finally the dude across from him reached over and fucking grabbed the belt. Yeah. But it was like, I was driving, and then he was in the fucking, like, behind the driver, and I saw the fucking light come across. But we're like, oh, okay, well, fucking dude's getting some. Like, okay, whatever. Like, this is fucking normal shit. And we're like, but that ain't normal for the whole panel to be fucking exposing light beneath me.
The procedure is break the links, right? So hold it in the right direction and break the link.
Yeah.
You have to interrupt it somehow.
Yeah, you can just fucking pull them back, and then it comes off. Like, but if you don't practice that,
you got to practice it.
You're like, what the fuck's going on? It takes you a minute to figure it out.
Holding it, like stabilizing
he's
it.
just like stabilizing it in a safe area.
I mean, that's a good first step.
It go.
That's a good first step.
Yeah. Put it in a safe direction, but super fun.
Yeah.
We're at an hour 30. You guys ready to call it?
No.
Okay, good.
Never.
I got to piss.
You got to pee?
I got to pee.
What's that cup for?
It's true.
Let's just call it.
You guys, you want to call it?
You can call it if you want
Yeah.
to. What are we going to close with?
Well, yeah. What are we going to close with?
So the last one we did, we were in San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing?
It feels super right.
It feels right, doesn't it?
It feels like, gotta stab a motherfucker.
Last time we did this, people are demanding that we do this about once a month.
We got to do it once a month.
So we have to commit to the people who watch and listen that we are going to do this more regularly.
That was a fun episode.
For whatever reason, people think we know what we're talking about.
We don't.
No.
I love these episodes. These are my favorite.
Me too. It feels like catching up too.
Yeah.
It's always fun.
Yeah, because you never know where it's going to go. I mean, we're ending with smoking Pop-Tarts and...
killing Pop-Tarts.
Yeah. The incompetence of special operations operators across the service spectrum of AD.
Special can mean a lot of things.
I'm the HRT. I threw a CIA in there.
I always want to do that book called Clowns in Action, and it's just these stories.
Oh, dude, I have
it's just
so many.
These stories, bouncing 40 Mike out of
That'd be a
helicopters.
good graphic novel. You know what I mean, Mike?
Like scooping wrong dudes off the street.
Ooh, yeah. I've done that one before.
Be a good graphic novel.
It would be.
Right?
Me and him are doing
Clowns in Action.
This is how we end it. We're actually doing a graphic novel.
Are you
Like
really?
historical-
Is Chris going to do it for you guys?
I don't know who Chris is.
No. He's
a fucking...
You are...
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Mike and I decided yesterday we're going to do a graphic novel series.
I like it.
Yeah. Stories, comics. We're going to go to Comic-Con.
It's like Ace and Gary.
Yes.
Right? You remember that?
But that's live action. That's an actual cartoon.
We're going to do comic book on stories of Mac v. Sog, special operations guys.
That's cool.
But the graphic novel version of it, so it's
Really
a little bit
good.
more professional.
Yeah.
But it tells
And then
the
Mike's
history.
going to go to Comic-Con and sign autographs.
I will.
Fine with that.
But we're going to give proceeds of profits to, depending on who the story is, to it's like we do with Warriors Heart for Eagles and Angels.
Fuck that. I'm building a Bronco like that.
Good luck. That's a lot of confidence.
All profits and proceeds are going to go to the Bronco charity, which I'm going to
The Andy
create
Stumpf.
right after this.
Bronco
That's a lot of
charity.
And I
comics.
promise I will drive it by disabled
Fucking...
children and people and wave to them as I go by. So I'll be getting back to the community.
That is mean.
All right. Thanks,
All right.
guys.
All right.
Bye.
See you next. Bye.